Hey guys, so I wanted to do a quick range review of the Desert Eagle in 44 Magnum this past weekend, but unfortunately that was rained out, so what we get to do here now is a Workbench review of it instead. I'm sure I'll do a range review of it in the near future, but in the meantime we'll have to settle for this. So one of the questions I get asked is why I bought a Desert Eagle. Well, it's not my first firearm, and up until I had bought the Desert Eagle, all of my firearms had some sort of practical application, or maybe semi-practical application, either for concealed carry or for competition or for hunting or teaching the kids or doing just some recreational plinking. This one was really kind of like just because America, you know, you can have a Desert Eagle if you want a Desert Eagle. I like this gun. I like it a lot just because of its iconic nature. It's arguably one of the most iconic firearms in TV, film, and video games. It's been in movies like the RoboCop series. It was in Natural Born Killers, the Boondock Saints, Underworld, the Matrix trilogy, and even recently in the Bumblebee movie. The movie I had just finished watching when I decided to pull the trigger on this gun was Deadpool. And so I got it after seeing Deadpool because I wanted one. So I just ended up going to the gun store and said, hey, do you guys have any Desert Eagles? And they said, well, yes, we do. And this is what they had. And now this one is in 44 Magnum, as you can see here. 44 mag right there. I know you could have gotten it in 50 Action Express, but this is what they had. They did not have a 50 Action Express in or at the gun store that day, and I didn't want to wait. I wanted instant gratification, so I got it. Well, what do I like about it? Well, really just a cool looking gun, but short of that, well, actually that's probably enough. It's an amazing looking gun. There's, you know, I don't know what else to really say about it other than it's just really amazing looking. What else? Well, I also like that this gun is really it's a head turner at the range. You know, anytime that I go to the range and I bring this gun out, it's loud, maybe even obnoxiously loud. It's also just makes fireballs come out of it. I mean, it's got quite a big flash that comes out of the muzzle. And yeah, usually it's a good conversation piece. You get to meet people at the range because they start asking you, hey, is that a Desert Eagle? And you're like, yes, it is. And before you know it, they want to be your friend. Well, maybe they don't want to be your friend, but they definitely want to at least look at the gun, if not shoot it. But yeah, it's definitely just a lot of fun in terms of a big, large caliber handgun. A lot of fun to shoot. It really is just really ridiculous. The other things I like about it is it's a relatively interesting design. You've got this rotating bolt that's in there that's most commonly found in like ARs or rifles and whatnot. Not very common in a handgun. You can see the locking lugs in there, and it's a neat design. It's also gas operated, which yeah, it's fairly unique. Most of the semi-automatic handguns that you see today on the market are blowback design. They're basically work off of the recoil, and so this one's just a little bit different in that nature. Now, what I don't like about this gun, well, I think the first part, it's a very temperamental gun. What do I mean by that? Well, it's a large gun, so it's easy to get a good grip. I've got, you know, I'd say an average sized hand here. And yeah, you can get a good grip on it, but it is temperamental. And what I mean by that is if you don't get a good grip on it and you don't lock out your wrists and you limp wrist it, when it fires, there's a good chance that it's not going to go completely into battery with the next round. It's actually happened to me quite a bit, maybe one round out of every other magazine that I fire. The other thing is you've got the magazine has this floating design on it with the way that it's inserted here. And what happens here, let me put it in, you'll see the play and what I'm talking about here. You'll see it's got a little bit of play down here at the bottom. And so if you get a grip on there where your support hand is just low and just sits on that magazine, that can cause it to basically lock it back and give you some malfunctions when you're trying to get it to cycle. It's also ammunition sensitive, and that's predominantly due to its non-adjustable gas system. Magnum research actually includes a little yellow sheet of paper with the gun that has a list of approved ammunition that can be used for it. Basically ammunition that they've tested to cycle reliably through it. And it does warn you not to use lead bullets, as some of the lead can fill and close the orifice holes in the barrel, which impacts the ability of gas to flow through it and operate it effectively. Like in that list, there's probably about 14 different model or brand and model combinations in 44 Magnum. Out of those, I've shot the MagTech in 240 grain jacketed soft points. I've also shot the American Eagle 240 grain jacketed hollow points. And again, even with both of those being on the approved list, I've still managed to limp wrist it and have it not go fully into battery a few times. For the 357 Magnum version of the gun, there's about 12 different brands of it and types of ammunition that you could use for it. That's approved by Magnum Research. And in the 50 Action Express, there's 3 different ones. Other than that, the only other thing I don't really care for is the black on black sights. And you'll see here, kind of hard to see on the camera if you can see the focus, but you'll see the front side is black and you've got a rear notched rear sight there, and it's just not my favorite combination. I like the brighter colored front sight, so it's easier to see. I don't mind the blacked out black sights. You've got no serrations back here, so it's easy to get some glare on there. You can see even from the lighting on the video, there's a little bit of glare on that. But you know, I don't carry this gun as a self-defense weapon. I use it predominantly for limited recreation, meaning I don't go out plinking with this gun. 44 Magnum ammunition is not the cheapest. I'd rather go plinking with a 22. So most of the time it's just, you know, I want to shoot a cool looking gun. I want to shoot a large caliber and hit some targets with it. And yeah, so when I do that, I'm shooting slowly, I'm shooting controlled. I'm not competing with it, so for the most part, those sights work just fine. Yeah, that's, I guess, what I don't like about it. Would I recommend this handgun? Well, to the right person, yes. And again, remember, I'm just a regular guy here who's been a gun owner for less than a decade, but from my experience and my knowledge, or lack thereof, I would say that this is not a good first handgun or an only handgun for somebody who wants to own a gun. It's a really cool one, but it's just not practical. There's a steeper learning curve to it for a first handgun. With the weight and the size, the recoil is very manageable, but it's still not one that I would suggest people learn on. And if it's going to be your only handgun, yeah, I think the same logic applies there. For self-defense, no, I still wouldn't recommend it. It's too large for concealed carry. I mean, it's a big, heavy gun. And also with my experience shooting it and knowing that it's requires a very specific, proper grip, I wouldn't want to rely on that grip and my skills there to be able to shoot it reliably in a self-defense situation. So because of those reasons, I wouldn't recommend it for open carry, and I probably wouldn't recommend it for home defense either. And again, I mentioned, you know, the 44 Magnum, it's not the cheapest round. It's going to be expensive to get out there and train. So I think for most people, or maybe not most, but at least people in my situation, it's just not a gun that you're going to train with regularly or shoot at the range regularly, because it is cost prohibitive. And the cost of the ammunition, I just don't see a lot of people training with it regularly. What about hunting? Well, if you're handgun hunting, 44 Magnum is a capable round for sure. I mean, you can definitely take some medium-sized game. You're going to blow away small game with that, but yeah, I guess it could work. Again, I would come back and say, well, it probably would be okay as long as you can shoot that gun reliably. Again, if you're like me and you're got some arthritis in your hands and wrists and you're limp wristing it and you can't get it to go back fully in a battery, or you're struggling with the grip, and again, I showed that earlier with that magazine, then I probably wouldn't recommend it for you to go hunting. But that's a choice you got to make for yourself depending on how capable you are with that firearm. Well, what about for recreation? Really depends on your definition of recreation. In my case, I think it's great. It's, like I said, not a cheap plinker, but it is a cool Magnum. It's pleasant to shoot. I don't find it to be abusive on the hands. I think 44 Magnum's yes, it's a big bore round. It's definitely got a lot of power, but with the weight of the gun and the size of the gun, it's manageable in this gun. And it's a conversation piece and a head turner. So if you're looking to get a little bit of attention out at the range, I guess, and meet some people, it's a good piece to go. But even though you take that out of it, it is a fun gun to shoot for recreational purposes, at least in my opinion. What about for collectors? I guess it just depends on the type of collector you are. I mean, the gun itself, it's readily available. There are some limited editions versions of it, but it just really depends on whether or not you think that it's worth it. It's not really historic as far as I know, but it does have that iconic film, TV, and video game thing going for it. So again, just depends on what kind of collector you are, but sure, that could work. That's about all I have to say about this gun. From my opinion, and for me, it's a keeper. As far as I'm concerned, I like it. I enjoy it. It's one that when friends find out that I have one, they ask to shoot it, and we go shooting, and sometimes that introduces them into shooting a larger handgun caliber, and it's a fun piece. But that doesn't mean it's for everyone. Anyway, I'm going to work on getting this out to the range and doing a range review on it sometime soon as weather allows, and my work schedule does too. So until then, happy shooting, be safe, and we'll talk to you next time.